We back. Make it make sense. Episode 2. I wanted to definitely before we get started take out time to say thank you to everybody for making episode 1 such a beautiful and monumental occasion. So with that, we're going to take that energy. We're going to make that episode 2. So we got a great show for y'all tonight. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Nell presents Make It Make Sense. Make it make sense.
I'm young, I'm pretty, I hit hard. I'm in the best shape of my life. Niggas don't want to get in the ring with me.
Got a great guest for y'all tonight. Someone who, as we talked about on Uncensored Minds, travel, you know, the ins and outs of travel, what that looks like. We have someone here who is a part of the Philadelphia International Airport who is going to share some travel tips, share some inspirations, and a little bit of her background as we celebrate this beautiful black woman that is making a major strides and steps in the male dominated industry. So tell us a little bit about you. I want you to first start us off by giving us a brief background of who you are and what you do.
Um, my name is Sean Hawes. I'm the public relations, public affairs supervisor for the Philadelphia National Airport and Philadelphia Northeast Airport. I'm a public information officer, which means that I'm responsible for providing information to the news media on what's going on within the airport, both airport locations, um, and basically being the informational conduit from the news to the to our staff, our senior staff in the mayor's office, and vice versa if anything's happening on the inside out.
So how long have you held this position itself?
I've been in this position with the city for about 11 years now. I've worked in this uh, department for about a year now.
A year. What were you doing prior to?
I was the public information officer for the Department of Prisons.
For what?
The Department of Prisons.
Oh, we don't like that word. We don't like that word. We got to stay in clear of going to prison. But so tell us a little bit something interesting about yourself that most people wouldn't know, and also something interesting about your job as well.
Something interesting about myself. I like to think that I will try anything once. Um, I think that I am a generous and kind and happy spirit, so I like to try new experiences all the time.
Okay. What about something interesting about your job?
The most interesting part of my job is that most days aren't similar. So I generally don't know what's going to happen in my day until I actually get into my car and I kind of look at my calendar before I get into work to know which direction I'm going to drive in. Um, some days I get to work from home, but I generally don't know what's going to happen from day to day because it could be a routine day where I'm doing um, housekeeping kind of things, and then it could be anything that could happen as far as an emergency uh, on location or with media calls. We get a lot of requests during this time of the year about travel season, and how many people are traveling, if there are delays with flights, and if folks are losing luggage. Anything that seems like it's going to be a spike or change in how folks travel out of this location um, somehow comes will somehow come through our department in my office.
So we're Make It Make Sense is actually piggybacking off of Uncensored Minds, so 140, where we extensively talked about travel and
Okay.
what and some of the things just to you know refresh the memory of those that if you haven't seen the show, or even if you have, what that actually was detailing was the intricacies of traveling. What some of the things that you need to do to make sure that your travel is safe, you're on time, you have the right documentation, just a number of different things that will get you to your vacation destination or whatever destination you're flying to, safe and soundly.
Well,
So it was imperative to bring you on because you work in that industry.
Um, a lot of things that you have to keep in mind when you're flying, no matter where you're flying, if you're flying domestically or internationally or just, some kind of local kind of trip, is those common sense things that we repeat over and over again to make sure that you arrive at the airport 2.5 hours prior to your flight. And to make sure that if you're going to if you're bringing a carry on, to make sure that you don't have a weapon in your carry on. That drives me crazy. Like, why would you come to the airport with the weapon? You tell me you forgot it was in there.
So how often does that happen? Because
That
we
happens
know
very often.
which was tell us to leave our guns at home or in the car. How often does that happen where people actually bring them into the airport premises?
Common sense is not that common, first off, and for some reason, folks think that I'm going to be the one to get it through. They're never going to notice my gun and the full clip and everything else in there. I mean, you can bring a weapon with you, but it has to be checked. Um, if you bring it in a carry-on bag or in your purse or stuck under your wig or whatever, you're going to find that. But yeah, common sense is not that common. People bring in things all the time, guns, knives, and TSA is doing their job.
Wow, that's crazy. Because you would think, why would I even put myself in a situation like that to even be able to miss my flight to go into somewhere where I'm going to probably have a good time, or I'm going somewhere for business, or even just moving around for pleasure. So
Now you're going to jail.
so we in the media for the past week now, we've been hearing about this young lady by the name of Carly Russell,
Hmm.
right? The young lady who, fortunately enough, and thank God that she was returned safely, that she made it back to her parents' house safely after missing for a couple of days. You back in 2022 wrote an article about sex trafficking,
Yeah.
and I wanted to touch on that because what we've seen in the news about the actions that took place or transpired from her seeing a baby on the side of the road, her calling 911, and then disappearing for a few days. A lot of people thought that was a sign of sex trafficking. I wanted you to touch
Hmm.
on that. Being as though you work in an airport, and these are ways to transport people back and forth.
It's required for airport employees, Department of Aviation employees, TSA, airline workers, um, all the feds. We're required to take training on how to recognize um, victims of sex trafficking, and sex trafficking is very different than um, I just had a brain blur, but there's two different types, but sex trafficking is something that we look for when people are traveling, and we're looking for folks who are disconnected. So you might see someone who's remaining crazy close to a younger person with them, or a male and a female traveling, and they won't allow the woman to go to the ladies' room by herself. For example, they won't feed her. She just looks kind of nervous and furtive around, and she's kind of um, it's just it's something in there, the way that they interact together, that you can tell that's different. Folks who come to the airport and buy a ticket on that same day, two expensive tickets on the same day, things like that. You just kind of look out for different signs. Um, so it unfortunately is something that happens in
Mhm.
our industry. It happens in unfortunately it can cross over to you're looking for this in hotels, and you're looking for it um, uh, trains, any type of service industry. You're going to kind of look out for this because you never know what's happening. There's international signs that are um, available for people, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what those international signs are to indicate that they need help. So it's up to the people around us to kind of pay attention to our surroundings. And unfortunately, when you're in a setting like an airport, most people are focused on their destination, and they're focused on trying to find their gate. You know, um, the joke is that you always come into the airport, You go to your gate. Okay, my gate's there. Now I can go to chicken and pizza, whatever, and chill. But people are just kind of hyper focused on what they have to do in the airport because it can be overwhelming. It's a lot of moving parts, and if you're not someone who visits the airport a lot, um, you're only going to be focused on one or two things. I hope my bag gets on the flight, and I hope I can find my gate, and I'm not in the wrong location.
So to put people at ease,
Hmm.
is there like a big brother system that's in the airport where it watches us, or like surveillance cameras? I frequent the airport a lot, so I see the various number of security, with K9 and or without K9. I'm sure
Hmm.
they have plainclothes officers as well that walk, throughout the gates and things like that. But what are some things that we can kind of rely on that is putting our safety, or keeping us safe? What's some things that we can ease our mind of knowing that these airports already have in place?
There's not a lot of information I can provide about what is in place security wise. The best I can tell you is the Department of Aviation and TSA and all of our travel partners and work together to make sure that flying is a pleasurable experience and it's also a safe experience. So we work really hard to communicate with each other to make sure that you're getting to your destination as close on time as possible and as safely as possible. And then that's our ultimate goal.
So we always see these viral moments,
Yeah.
right? And we here in Philadelphia area are notorious for viral moments, be it on
Right.
media sites or even on the news, where we see passengers um, acting up,
Hmm.
and for good reason. Everybody's wants to get to their destination. We got a lot of cancellations because of short staff by pilots, or you know um, what are those people called that flies with the airplanes? The freak
The flight
stewardess,
attendants.
flight
Yeah,
attendants.
flight attendants.
That we see the shortness of that. We also see overbooking of flights, to where these airlines are just trying to make as much money as they can, overbooking these flights, and not everybody gets a seat, or again, countless number of delays, and long lines at TSA. Why do you think that is, and what can be done? One, as a facility. Two, as the airline. And three, us as the passengers can do to mitigate those issues.
That was a very, very large question that
We
encompassed
got
a
to make it make
lot.
sense. We got to make it make sense.
To try and make this make sense in this conversation is not going to make it make sense,
Okay.
because although it seems like one moving part, everything that you talked about are like different entities that kind of work in their own silos, and our goal is to come together and to create a moving um, part, I guess. For example, if there's we don't the airports don't shut down the flights.
Okay.
We airports are leasing agents, so you're looking at it like you're renting an apartment to somebody. We're renting spaces to airlines. We're renting spaces to commercial airlines, and we're renting space to private private planes, and we're renting space to cargo um, planes. And then we're also renting to merchants. So those are Chicky and Pete's and what's the place you don't like in the airport that serves hot dogs or whatever that you don't dig?
Um.
The newspaper place.
Oh, I
You know
do
what I'm
not
talking
like
about.
different places. None
Okay.
of them.
Yes.
Honestly, my if I had a vote, I would say that, especially large cities like Philadelphia, right,
Yeah.
should have places that are unique to the city.
Yeah.
That way, incoming people who are not familiar with the city, or just passing through connecting flights to get a taste of Philadelphia, right?
Hmm.
There should be Wawas in the airport. That's
Yeah.
a staple that is of Philadelphia, right? We got
I
Chickies and
think
Pete's.
that
We know we know that Chickies
outlets
and
right
Pete's is in
now.
there. We have so many different things that are not of Philadelphia that are in the airport that don't tie
Hmm.
in to our airport. Um, so that's one of the things that we talked about before, about, bringing up and making, making some suggestions to just give it a hometown feel.
I told you I was gonna bring that up. I got you.
I need to be on the board. Put me
I got you.
on the board to where, some of our,
Hold on. Let me put note to self. Add
notes is
Darnell to board.
for sure, for sure.
I
Um,
got you.
so I know
So
we talked about this a little bit before we got on, but what keeps you up at night when it comes to your profession, if anything?
um not much. um I I I trust the operation. I know internally what the operation is. So to go back to your previous questions, the things that you can do to mitigate these kind of problems when you're traveling is to keep in mind that if you're traveling during peak times, and peak times is during the holidays, major holidays, and during spring break, sometimes it's just going to be a mess. It's what it is because we're having we're traveling with 490,000 people are coming through the airport per day. So, flights are coming in. I know you like to leave on an early flight. Early flights are great to leave in because they're the first ones to leave. So the airlines are going to try and keep them moving because the goal is you got to look at it as transit. You're going from this stop to drop these people off, pick up these people here, and bring them back to the stop. So it's a lot of ping ponging. So when the system gets shut down, the system is shut down because of weather. Because the FAA says you can't fly in this weather, and there's no arguing. We do what they say. The airlines have to do what they say, and it's up to us to communicate that to everyone else that this is what's going on. So as a passenger, it's just something that because it's the nature of the beast. You have to be aware of your travel times. Kind of do a little bit of research when you're traveling to see what's the best day to travel during holiday seasons. See the best hours of day to travel. To make sure that if you're coming to the airport, that you're getting there. In real life, I travel. When I get to the airport, I get to the airport 3 hours before my flight because I'm not playing. I'm trying to go where I'm trying to go, and I know that my pre-check hasn't come through yet still. So I'm in line with everybody else, even though I work there. So
Okay.
I get there 3 hours early. Yeah.
So what would you say, and I know you're probably going to give me airport talk. What is the time that we should arrive at the airport in order to catch a domestic flight and or international flight? And what is realistic?
Realistically, bring yourself to the airport at least 3 hours before you're going to fly.
Three.
Even domestically, you come on in there, go through the check, go through security, and have a seat somewhere. We have art exhibits you can check out. We got dogs walking around the airport that you can talk to. There's shops open. There are things to do. We have free Wi-Fi. I like to sit at the bar and have a lemon drop at 7 o'clock in the morning when I'm traveling. But knowing that you're on this side of security versus in that line, um, getting anxious and getting annoyed. And then what happens is it trickles down to you're arguing with the TSA folks. And then you're running through the airport. Now you're racing to get to your gate. Now you're fighting with the gate agents because the gates are closed. If I was traveling internationally, it's just me, but I would be at the airport three and a half. I'd be at the airport 3.5 hours early because you got to go through security. You got to go through customs. So I'm not. It's not worth it. It's not
And
worth missing your flight.
I'm one of those that is there 15 minutes before my flight take off,
I would
or
meet you at the airport.
at 30, actually 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes before my flight take
No.
off. Checking my bags, going through security, and at the gate. I do not have time to sit there.
Do you
Sit
have
there.
pre-check?
Yes, I actually do have pre-check now. I travel
So
a lot.
that makes it better if you have pre-check because we have, and it's something that we just introduced at some of the other terminals where there's a tally that shows you when you get there how many minutes you're going to be in line if you're there for pre-check versus how many minutes you're going to be in line for regular transfer. But yeah, that would drive me nuts. I couldn't. Yeah, you would be there
Well,
45 minutes there, and I'd be there 2 hours following on the other side.
so I know we talked about this also too. conventional logic tells us if it's a fork in the road, we always going left. Are you left or are you a right winger? Are you defining the odds or are you going the beating path?
I don't even know where this question is going right now.
That's not just about your career, but this is
Okay.
career and also life.
Okay. Um, gosh, this is tough. I generally go I generally go down the middle. Uh, I'm a I'm a bit contrary. So, most people that know me well will know that if you're telling me that something is blue, I'm going to say, it's a little green, and just to challenge, what is expected.
So let's back up for a quick minute because you also, as the director of what is it, communications at the Philadelphia International Airport. Is
Public
that the right
affairs.
title?
No, it's not on public affairs.
Public affairs. I'm trying to give you all type of titles, right?
Thank you,
I'm
I
trying to throw
appreciate it.
all these back, right? So
Thank
public
you. I need to
relations,
raise. Yeah.
director of public relations. You do that. You also has held that title in our Philadelphia prison system as well,
hmm
right? Share a little bit about your experience with that, if you can.
Um, I can share a little. One thing about okay, so it's the same animal, just I don't know if it's a good description of it, but it's the same job, but just a different location. Public relations is public relations, and communications is communications, no matter where you work. Um, the difference between working in these two locations is that um, at prisons, I was a one woman team. I had to cover media. I had to do, I say had to, I was able to do media, and I wrote speeches for, our senior staff and for the mayor's office and for the city council people. I was responsible for bringing social media in. Um, I was the main media contact. Now I have a team, which is awesome because I was used to doing everything myself. Working in this larger entity has afforded me to be able to concentrate on things that to kind of drill down on what is good for me and to kind of figure out where I want to work in the system. So I still do those things that I did at prisons, but I do them in I guess a larger scale here because I have I was going to say this they're nicer stories to tell. Let's put it that way.
So, if you don't mind expanding on a positive
hmm
and also a negative, and let's start with the negative because it's always better to end on a positive than it is on a negative. So,
Okay.
talk about a worst moment,
The worst moment?
your worst moments.
Oh boy. You know what? I don't know if this is the worst moment, but it was the moment that affected me the most was there was a gentleman who was released from upstate who'd served over 20 years in jail, and they brought him through for to be released through here because he was from the area, and it was a very newsworthy story at the time. So when he got to us and he was released, he and I were sitting in the lobby, and he's sitting in these clothes from the 90s, and he's holding this one box on his lap. And we're waiting for his family and his friends to come in, or whoever was coming, the lawyers, the innocence program that got him released. And we're sitting next to each other, and he says, you know, so what am I supposed to do now? What do I do? I've been there for so long, I don't know what to do. He said that I was outside and the buses talked. And he was like, I don't. know what to do. People have phones in their hands, and we always had this thing where there was no crying in prison, and so we were sitting there, and I'm just very touched by what he was going through and the magnitude of the world and how much it had changed since he had been incarcerated. And then suddenly, his family comes through the door. His son, who was a baby, an infant when he went to jail, was coming in through the door, carrying his son. And they just kind of everyone, the lawyers from the Innocence Project and whoever else was there, just kind of collapsed into him, and they just cried and cried and cried for quite a while. And then my job was to make sure that they also got escorted from our lobby to their vehicles without being stopped by media, just to let them have this moment. So having to push them back at the same time. So that I think that was the most moving thing, the most poignant thing that's happened to me during my career.
So we talked about a touching moment, which pulls at our heartstrings when we hear things like that. Talk about a positive moment. So we had you on that side of the story. Now let's bring it back to a positive side where we can all say, "Oh, that was amazing."
That wasn't amazing.
talk
That
about
was the
something.
most amazing thing I ever saw.
Talk about something. Also, talk about something that we don't always get a chance to see. That
Oh,
and this could be the story, the positive side of it, because whenever we think of the airport, we think of it just
mhm.
a building that houses us that will then put us on the airplane and take us to our destination. But then if something changes, be it the flight gets canceled, delayed, we're in our feelings, or even having someone who may be incarcerated,
Mhm.
that's in our family, and we miss them and we want them to come home. Even if they did something that got them there, we still want them to be home. Talk about a positive. That's why we brought you to the other side to talk about that.
Um, if you get me on the phone, you should be very happy. Your day is made because I am a dog with a bone. So if you get me on the phone, no matter if I work there or my current location, um, I'm going to find a solution for your problem. So if there was a mother or a father or family member or girlfriend who would call in and say, I haven't talked to my loved one, and he's been there for a month, and he always calls. I'll find out what's going on. If I have to get up, if I had to get up and go out of my office and into the jail to find what was going on, I was usually I could just make a phone call, but if I had to get up and find out, I will find out what's going on. I'm the same way at the airport. I spend a lot of time walking through the airport. I don't know if I look friendly or not, but people always stop me and say, can you help me? Um, I don't know where this is. I get a lot of people who don't speak English too. And they just need help. You walk into these spaces and they're so big, and there's so much going on. There's so many people rushing. So much going on, and I guess I'm a good landing pad because I always attract folks who will stop me and say, "Help!"
Hmm.
And I don't know if I'm nosy or that it's just a fixer in me, and I fix it, and I'm the Olivia Pope Candle kind of person.
Absolutely. So what Sean just said, and she shared, if you get her on the phone, she's typically going to get your problems handled. So if
Yeah,
you want to upgrade from economy to first class, find her walking through the Philadelphia International Airport, and it's done. That's what I took from that.
I think you lied to these people. You lied to everybody just now.
Absolutely, absolutely. What are some goals that you are trying to achieve? What are some things that you're looking forward to achieving?
Personally
Hmm.
or professionally or both. Yes.
Professionally and personally.
Um, Professionally, I'm always trying to professionally I'm trying to get the bag bigger all the time.
Okay.
So I'm always, looking for a way to make a bigger impact um, in what I do. But I'm also looking for the next step and the next level where I can make a bigger impact and I can also make a bigger salary. So, because that's, I like pretty things. So I try to do that. Personally, um, as cliche as it's going to sound and as corny as it may sound, I just want happiness and joy, and I want people to feel that kind of energy from me, and I want to put that type of energy into the world and kind of get it back. So
Nice.
I try to be as joyful as I can and as grateful as I can in every moment.
So we put the horse before the carriage. Wait, or
Oh
no, we
Lord,
no, up to the rank, out the way, right? It put the carriage before the horse. So I
what
want to
else?
take you down in this role for a quick minute. How did you get into what you're doing now? Um, and what is the best thing that happened to you since the last time that we spoke?
How did I get to this job? So I'll try and do this briefly. Um, I was working full time at SEPTA in the dispatch center. My daughters were, I have two daughters. At the time, they were in high school, about to finish high school. I took that opportunity to go back to school to finish my degree. So I went to school full time and worked full time and had a family full time. And on the day that I was graduating, or a few days before I was graduating, I was in this Lord and Taylor next to SEPTA. It was Lord and Taylor at the time. Is it still Lord and Taylor? I don't know. But I was in Lord and Taylor buying a dress for graduation, and I got a call from the city saying that they gotten my resume because I just kind of threw it up, just kind of threw something at the wall, and they got my resume and thought I'd be great for this position. It was a management trainee position. It was 30,000.
Lost her. So when she gets back, we'll finish that up. Unfortunately, her Wi-Fi went out. So when she gets back on, I'm gonna re-ask the question. That way you can chop it from there. Make it make sense. Episode 2 coming at you. Make it make sense. But now, episode 2. Let's get into it. Got a great guest for you this evening. She hails all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you were attended the episode 140 of Uncensored Minds, you heard us talk about extensively our what it looks like to travel. Scrap that, scrap that, scrap that. Can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yeah. So where I'm gonna pick up at, because we're gonna start it as we're gonna chop it from there, chop it up and all that. So I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna start off with asking you the same question, but I'm gonna ask you a little different. So I'm gonna start off by, what's your story, and how did you get into what you're currently doing, or how did you get into what's your story? Allowing you to answer what's your story, and then how did you get into, and then what's the best thing that has happened to you, and what are you working on now, and what's some of the most exciting things. I'm going to ask you those questions, so we're going to get right into that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to go. What's your story?
Um, the story of how I got into this position, if that's what you're asking me, is I was working for SEPTA for a few years. I worked full time there. I had two daughters who were in high school. I decided that I wanted to finish my degree. So I went back to school full time. I worked full time, and I had a family. Um, the day I was buying a dress for graduation, I got a call from the city saying that a position was open. They thought I'd be a good fit for it. Um, the only problem was that it required me to take a cut in salary, which was maybe half. My salary was cut by 30,000, let's say, which is a huge, you know, chunk out of your household. Um, I made the decision to um, take that leap, and because I knew that if I did well in the accepting the position as a trainee, that it would be a short time. It was like a 6 month training period. So for 6 months, I would have to kind of be on the struggle bus. So I decided to take that leap, because sometimes you got to take 2, 3, 7 steps back in order to make that to make that leap. So that's what I did. We just tightened up. My girls were in Catholic school, so we still had tuition to pay, and we still had to feed them, and things like that. But um, eventually, eventually, I graduated. I took the position. I uh, moved to the next position level, and then the next one after that, the next one after that, and within probably 2 or 3 years, I had made back the salary that I lost plus some.
Nice.
So it was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
So what was
Um,
okay?
I'm sorry.
So my next question was, what is the best thing that happened to you since you took that leap of faith? Because most people would say, nah, I can't give up $30,000, not having a family, not
Yeah.
big grown up age that they are. That's a hard pill to swallow. But what would you say was the best thing that happened to you with doing that?
Um, the best thing that happened to me was knowing that I could take care of me. Sometimes you got to put like full faith in yourself and your capabilities, and whoever you pray um, to know that you're going to be all right, especially if you put the work into it. It's scary. It's literally jumping off of a cliff and not knowing, and going by faith. But um, it gave me the ability to know that I could always take care of myself. If my situation downgraded at any point, that I can always upgrade it because I had the skills and I was smart enough and I had enough drive and tenacity. And it's not hard. I would never say that it wasn't hard. It was hard. I like to shop. I said before, I like pretty things. I like to travel. I couldn't do these things for a few years, but it was fine because um, I made all of that back in spades, and I made great connections, and I made great friends, and my daughters are successful women now, and um, I'm really proud of myself and where we are. now because I said it as that I should have said in the beginning because I feel like I set a good example for them. They know that they knew then and they know now that their mother um, was going to take care of them, and that I was setting an example that they could take care of themselves, and that it might get a little uncomfortable, and that's what it was. It was uncomfortable. It wasn't the end of the world. You know what I mean? It was it was uncomfortable, um, and uh, I like that now as adults that they recognize that, and they say, my mom would never, you know, put up with this, or my mom would encourage me to do this. They're just fearless. Like if I thought I was fearless, they are fearless squared. My eldest daughter will get on a plane and travel at the drop of a dime. She heads a department, and she has literally 2,000 people who report to her. My youngest daughter is a trained hairstylist and makeup artist, but she's also switched careers. Now she's training and developing. So I'm just really proud of these kids and myself, and what that leap of faith uh, brought to us.
What what motivates you? Given all those accomplishments, what motivates you?
Right now, what motivates me is you asked me a question a while ago, how I got here, and I keep looking into doing a series of how I got here because, someone told me recently that I make things look easy and that I make it look effortless, and it's not. Nothing's easy. You have to work for everything. Um, I try to set an example for the people on my staff now. I have a lot of young women, a lot of young women of color in particular, that I want to be a role model to them, and know that how I got here because I was a single mother. I had two children before I was 20 years old. My friends went off to college, and I had these babies that I had to take care of, and fortunately for them, vanity was running high in me, so I was not going to be left behind. I was going to make something work and figure it out. So I want that example for women, young women, to know that this is just something that happened to you, but it's not going to define who you are and what you can be. So whenever I get a chance to tell my story to women, younger women especially, I tell them to keep pushing.
Nice. What's what challenges you? And not only what challenges you, but also how do you define success? So that's a two part. Challenges you, how do you define success?
Challenges me. I challenge myself mostly, because I'm my biggest critic.
Okay.
Um, I write. I do my day job, and then I also try to write. I've started writing I've started writing two books actually, um, that give me the most challenge in my life because one of them is kind of an autobiographical kind of whatever, and the other one's a little novella that's cute. But sometimes I find myself stuck because I write for work, for real life, for, articles and things like that, and speeches and things, and training guides, stuff like that. But what I'm passionate about writing for about, is something that comes harder for me because it's like a baby to me. It's things that I've given birth to, and um, so I am my biggest challenge, personally and professionally. And if I can get out of my own way sometimes, then I do pretty well.
Nice. Um, you spoke about something that touched, touched my heart, but also my brain about mentoring and being a source of inspiration for young Black girls.
Hmm.
Expand a little bit more on that and how important that is.
Um, I get again, it's cliche, but representation matters. So when you see yourself in these spaces that you don't often see yourself, when I had a group today that I was meeting with, and they were young people, bringing interns in, and I was able to walk in and speak to these interns, and they're people of all races and ethnicities, and male, female, intersexual, whatever, and to see that we're presenting our leadership team, and our leadership team looks like everybody else. You see, Asian woman, you see a black woman, you see, just everyone there. And often when you see, even today, when you see a black woman come into the room, you don't often think that she's one of the bosses, or that she is, responsible for as much as she's responsible for. A while back, we had some kids come. We do a lot of tours for children, so they can come in and see the airport. And a lot of them have never even been on a flight before, more or less been at the airport and see what's going on. And at one point we give them lunch, of course. And the little boy said to me, um, what do you do? You look like you're in charge here. And I was like, you're right. I said, you're right. You get extra pizza today. More pizza for you. Real recognize it's real. But so it's great to have to be able to let them see themselves in pilots, in our engineering staff, whatever, our grounds crew, because we have this guy on our grounds crew that started up, and he did this video for us, and he like loves filling potholes on the tarmac, because he knows if he doesn't fill these potholes, that the flights aren't safe. So he's responsible for these lives. So everyone who works in every cog is important, in a job, and sometimes you don't get that bigger picture, when you're the cog. You don't see how your part plays, because you're just kind of focused, hyper focused on what you do. So, yeah, that's just it. Just the representation of it all. It's just to see. It's good to see yourself.
Absolutely. So before we wrap this up, it's two things that I would like for both of us to share. One, our favorite quote. You being an author, un, unpublished, but you being an author, what you're writing.
I am published. I have published articles. And go ahead.
Yes. Well, okay. Talk your shit. Talk
Go
your
ahead.
shit.
Go ahead.
But what is your favorite quote? Be it from yourself and or from someone else. We're going to touch on that, and I want to share mine, and then I'm going to allow you to share yours, right? And my favorite quote is, small minds can't comprehend big spirits. To be great, you have to be willing to be mocked, hated, and misunderstood. Stay strong, because someday we'll forget the hurt, the reasons you cried, and who caused the pain. We will finally realize that the secret of being free is not revenge or hiding behind walls, but letting things unfold their own way and in their own time, which keeps me going because it allows me to understand that nothing or no one can take away my shine. No one or nothing can take away my truth, and no one or nothing can take away what I've created, which is me. What's one of yours?
That's not fair. That's not fair. That sounds
It's
that
very,
sounds very prepared.
very, it's very prepared.
You did not give me the opportunity to prepare anything,
Okay.
and I call foul. Um, the thing that comes to mind for me is that I'm always saying, and I don't even know if it's considered a quote, but it's to seek joy, to seek happiness, and it's easier said than done, and also to be kind, because you want to put that back in the world, and you want to get that back for yourself. I just think that whatever energy you're putting out there is what you're going to get back. So I'm all about shining and not letting anyone else dim my light, but I'm also about not dimming anyone else's light and anyone else's spirit. um so it's, again, it's easy to say to be happy,
Mhm.
but it's actually something that you have to do. It's a choice, and that's, there you go, that's your quote. Happiness is a choice. um because you wake up to and decide that morning, that I'm going to be happy, that I'm going to be love. I'm going to be kind, and I'm not going to let Beyonce just jumped in my mind. These motherfuckers ain't stopping me. I don't know if I can cuss on your podcast,
It makes
but
sense. You're making it make sense. However, you need to make it make sense.
okay. So yeah, just kind of put that energy out in the universe.
So we talked about a number of different things tonight. We talked about travel. We talked about our careers. We talked about our fears, in a sense. We talked about success.
Mm-hmm.
We even talked about public safety and what that looks like, not just for us, but for everybody.
This
Right?
was all encompassing. Yes.
Absolutely. What is the number one takeaway that you would like for my audience to absorb?
That whatever happens to you, it's not happening to you. It's happening for you.
Okay.
Um, you're responsible for you. So you're not responsible for you're not responsible for how were raised, and but the product, the person that you are as an adult person on this earth, you're responsible for that person today. So, little girl Sean, teenage Sean, whatever happened to her, um, I can't use her or them as an excuse for being a shitty person today, because I have so much to be grateful for. Um, you know, you, as an adult, we can't let life happen to us. You have to go out and you got to make your life. You got to make it what you want it to be. Um, my own, uh, I don't want to say downfalls, but anything that's happens in my life right now are self-inflicted, because I just I didn't do it the right way, and I take responsibility for that. So, if I want to make more money, I can make more money. I can, I can take on more work. I can um, I don't know. I can work it out if I wanted to make more money in real life. Um, if I wanted to finish my book, I can finish my book, but I just don't have the motivation for it. But I can't make an excuse and say, "Oh, I work so many hours a day, and that is not nothing stops for me to be able to do these other things," because it's just not true. I'm on call. If something happens, if there's an emergency that happens, but it's not nothing happens 24 hours a day. So a lot of times I'm sitting here watching the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Trash,
Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
trash.
Um, that's what I run on trash TV and news. Those
Okay.
are my two vices there.
As
Um,
as my co-host on Tell 'em It Kicks and also Uncensored Minds, he would say WOMAN. What does that spell? The definition of a woman.
like that. I don't know how.
You talked. You said a lot in there, and one thing that it got me to thinking about is our society, right?
Mhm.
Our people. What is some innuendos that we need to knock down as a black culture that would help represent us a little better, put us in a different light, or even a different path, singularly?
Um, so I like the idea of holding each other responsible, the and men and women holding each other responsible, for us holding ourselves responsible, without blaming each other for whatever is going poorly, um, in our society. We're happy to take credit when something's great, when something's going great, but when there's something that's not going well, you know, it's always, well, where was the father in the house, or well, that's what you get because anything negative, and I don't think we defend each other enough on that. um I was going to say something else about that and I just lost it out of my brain, but I just want, oh, respectability politics, that's where I was going with this. We spend a lot of time, not only not defending ourselves but defending our who we are to other people. to other races, just to other people, explaining why black people do this, or why black women are like this, or why black men. And I'm not one for respectability politics. I think that we don't have to explain ourselves to anyone. Our culture is our culture. Um, Good, bad, and different. It's our culture, and we don't have to pass um, a test to prove that we are as good, as smart, as strong, as funny, as whatever. We are who we are, and who are you to judge? Our culture. So I want people to have more respect for that, and I want our people to have more respect for that, because a lot of people my age and older, especially, we're still stuck in that mindset that what with the white people, don't do that in front of white people, don't. And it's just not something I'm interested in. I don't care. I don't care. You know,
One thing
I
that one thing that comes to mind for me is it's okay to seek help. And when I
yeah.
say help, it's okay to go to counseling. It's okay
Mhm.
to say you're not okay. It's okay to be vulnerable, but also be strong at the end, in the process of being vulnerable, right? It's okay. We got to
Mhm.
stop masking our issues, our
Yeah.
feelings, and our emotions, and just let them out. And what that does is it helps us to um, deviate from, not deviate, but it allows us to detach from that and not carry that on with us everywhere we go.
Yeah.
It allows us to heal properly. It allows us to take the necessary steps to understand exactly what the problem is, but then also find resolution.
Mhm.
As a society, I don't think that we understand that um, sitting down and talking to someone is okay. It's almost necessary,
Mhm.
therapeutic. It's a release. It's a an emotional, spiritual, chemical release that we all need.
Listen, I deeply believe in therapy. My therapist knows that the first 10 minutes or so, I'm going to be weeping. It's just going to be a whole lot of, because it's just what I do.
Sean,
Yes.
tell them what your sign is, Sean.
Say again. I'm sorry.
Tell them what your sign is, because when you said that, it just took me back to what what people always say about me. What's your sign?
I'm Cancer.
I'm a Cancer as well, and people say cancers are crybabies.
Uh
So
huh.
I guess you're reiterating all of the points that these people are coming up with. But
I, you ever see that meme? It's like, you're a Cancer. What are you gonna do? You're gonna cry? I'm like, yeah. And what about it? So what?
I definitely appreciate you coming on this evening and sharing your story. It was necessary and needed. Not all the time do we actually have an opportunity to get a perspective, a woman's perspective, where she's opening up and talking, telling us how she feels, what she needs, what she thinks, what some things that we can do to improve relations. And I know we haven't talked about that. I know we haven't gotten into detail about you know certain things that is encompassing of relationships and that thereof, but helping us to get a clearer understanding of what you do on a basis will help us to understand what it is that we need to do going forward in a number of different things that we got going on. All right. So again, I know we talked about that one thing that we wanted us to leave us with. Now, after we now wrap that up and we said everything, is there anything else that you want to share with us before we get up out of here? And how can we find you? How can we find the director of public relations for the Philadelphia
I
International?
promise you, you're gonna have to get my title right, but I'm
You,
gonna let you live with this right
I'm
now.
killing it, joint.
You are killing it. That you are definitely killing it. I'm around. You can find me. Email Darnell, and you can reach out to me that way.
Okay.
Um, yeah. What do I want to leave you with? I think I left everything on the table. I can't think of anything. I'm very sleepy. Um, yeah, you kept me up past my bedtime. Um, so yeah, I think I don't have anything left for you tonight.
So
It's
thank
been
you
an
for
hour and 1 minute and 33 seconds. You
absolutely.
said 15 minutes.
As you can see, we just can't stop talking about things that has to do with us, right?
I guess.
Thank you, Sean. Public relations.
You're not looking at the screen. You can't see what it
It says public relations supervisor.
says. Public affairs.
Not on here. It says public relations supervisor, and they got public affairs manager, someone else.
Is that a cute picture of me on there?
It's all right. Who am I to judge that? It's all right. You know what I mean? I love the fact that you over the white lady, but shout outs to you for doing your thing. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you for stopping out and sharing your story with me, making it make sense. Thank you for the travel tips. Thank you for the tips of how to staying safe, during these ugly times that we are in, as far as sex trafficking is concerned. How to chase our goals and what that looks like. Defining success and how to bring up the that's under us and giving them representation of what it looks like to be from that same elk, right?
Hmm.
Off. So thank you again for coming on. We appreciate it. This is my second episode. My first episode aired on my birthday, so I'm super excited about this. I'm super
Yeah.
excited. So thank you again for coming on and making it make sense with Nell.
Thanks for having me.
That's it. All right. There you are, people. We made it make sense. Thank you for joining me for another successful episode. You will see another episode airing in 2 weeks after this one. We are bi-weekly, not weekly. I know a lot of people have been looking out for the next episode saying, hey, Nell, where is it at? Where are you at? Did I miss it? Did I miss it? No, you haven't missed it. We do it bi-weekly instead of weekly. As it grows and demand gets stronger, it may go to every week. So, keep your eyes and ears open for Make It Make Sense. See y'all soon.